You've heard Psalm 23, but never in this way. Hidden within it is the very blueprint that activates the law of attraction as outlined in the Bible itself. How many times have you recited these words, perhaps unaware of the immense power they hold? How often have you heard, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," yet continued to experience lack, fear, and insecurity in your life? What if I told you that every verse of this well-known psalm is not merely a prayer of comfort, but a key to manifestation, capable of aligning your life with the flow of abundance that has already been promised to you? Could you look at it not just as a sacred text, but as a spiritual map to transform your reality? Consider this for a moment. Why do some people seem to pray, believe, and repeat holy words, yet remain stuck in cycles of scarcity? And why do others, quietly and without fanfare, find peace, prosper, and witness doors opening for them effortlessly? Is there something concealed within the words we repeat? A secret that isn't explicit but vibrates between the lines, waiting to be unlocked? Today, you will discover that Psalm 23 is not just a distant promise. It is a code that connects with the law of attraction, not in a mystical or superficial sense, but according to the spiritual principles God's Word has already laid out for you. As you listen to every detail and revelation we are about to unveil, prepare yourself to notice something you may have never seen before. This psalm speaks of guidance, provision, protection, and victory over enemies, but it also teaches a silent law. That which you meditate on, feel, and declare with faith is what shapes your experience. And here is a point few ever reveal. It's not about asking, it's about aligning. It's not about mindless repetition, but about vibrating with what has already been promised, as if it were already real, because in the eyes of the Creator, it is. Perhaps you're now wondering, does this mean I've been reciting this psalm incorrectly my entire life? Does it mean my prayers didn't work because I lacked the understanding behind the words? The answer may be more profound than you imagine. What you are about to learn isn't a newly invented secret, but a code that has always been there. To access it, however, you must go beyond the surface. You need to allow each phrase to touch your subconscious, each word to reshape your perception of reality. And yes, the final revelation we will share will be the most powerful of all, one that could flip a definitive switch within you. Before we proceed, I need to ask you for something very simple, yet essential for this message to reach more people who need this awakening. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel right now. By doing so, you help us spread this knowledge and, at the same time, you open yourself up to receive more content that will nourish your faith and consciousness. And since you are here, seeking more than just words, seeking real transformation, I have left a special gift for you in the first pinned comment. There, you will find a practical path to help you apply all of this in your daily life, so that every promise we reveal here can begin to materialize in a tangible way. The difference between hearing and living lies precisely in what you do after receiving this knowledge. Now, take a deep breath and keep an open mind. Every second of this video was designed to guide you from a state of doubt to clarity, from blockage to movement, from waiting to manifestation. Because Psalm 23, when understood deeply, doesn't just comfort. It activates, it moves, it creates. And what we are about to explore next could very well be what you've been waiting for to finally break the cycles that have limited you until today. As we delve into Psalm 23 with a new perspective, we begin to see that its words were not written merely to bring us solace in times of distress, but to teach us how to align our mind, faith, and energy with what is already prepared for us. Each verse carries a specific frequency, a spiritual password that, once understood, unlocks dormant areas of our lives. It's as if this psalm is a map, and each line is an activation point leading us to a state of complete trust, where manifestation ceases to be an effort and becomes a consequence. The psalm begins, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. How many times have we repeated this without realizing it is not a request, but a declaration of abundance? It doesn't say, "May the Lord be my shepherd so that I shall not want." It affirms an existing state. He is, and therefore, I lack nothing. The law of attraction operates on this very principle. When you affirm with conviction what already is, you align yourself with the frequency of fulfillment. It's not about asking from the outside, but recognizing from within that provision already exists. This is the first hidden secret of Psalm 23. Abundance begins when your consciousness connects with the certainty that you already possess what you need. When you say, "I shall not want," you are reprogramming your subconscious, which has so often been trained to think in terms of scarcity, fear, and lack. How many times have you looked at your bills, your fridge, your opportunities, and felt that something was missing? The psalm is here to reverse that logic. It states that the Lord's presence as your shepherd is the guarantee of supply. This doesn't mean everything will fall from the sky without any action, but that you start living in a state of confidence that opens doors, attracts solutions, and makes you see resources that were previously invisible. Then it says, "He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters." Notice the symbolism. Green pastures and quiet waters represent rest, abundance, and inner peace. True manifestation doesn't happen in the midst of desperation, but in peace. It is in this state of trust that creativity flows, intuition guides you, and opportunities appear without you having to chase everything with anxiety. Perhaps this is what you've been missing until now, resting on the inside so that things can move on the outside. The third verse is even more profound. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Here we find a powerful code for emotional realignment. A refreshed soul means healing the wounds that made you doubt, the memories that held you back, the traumas that made you believe you weren't worthy of living in abundance. The law of attraction isn't just about what you think. It's about what you feel deeply. If your soul carries wounds, you can declare beautiful things, but your vibration won't sustain the manifestation. This psalm shows that God's first move is to heal your soul so that your faith can become solid and your pure heart can become a magnet for good things. And then it says, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." This is where most people get lost. The darkest valley is that phase of life where everything seems bleak, where it feels like nothing is happening, where manifestation is delayed, where the signs seem to be contrary. But this is precisely where the code of Psalm 23 activates most powerfully. It's not about the absence of challenges, but about the presence of trust. When you walk through the valley without surrendering to fear, you prove that your vibration is greater than your circumstances. It is at this point that the law of attraction ceases to be a nice theory and becomes a spiritual law in action. Now reflect. How many times have you given up in this valley? How many times have you let the darkness convince you that the promise wasn't real? This psalm is telling you that manifestation does not depend on the absence of challenges, but on your ability to remain confident despite them. It is when you keep walking, even when you cannot see, that the energy shifts, that the invisible begins to become visible. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. This is one of the most intriguing verses. A table prepared in the presence of enemies means that manifestation will occur even when circumstances are unfavorable, even when people doubt you, even when it seems unlikely. The oil on the head represents favor, spiritual authority, and mental clarity, everything you need to discern paths and make wise decisions. And the overflowing cup shows that divine abundance is not limited. It is not just enough, it is overflowing. But notice, this only happens after you have crossed the valley. It's as if the psalm is teaching us that the table is set not for those who gave up, but for those who persevered. Here lies an important key. You often want the manifestation to happen before the journey, but it is during the journey that you become the person capable of receiving what you ask for. And this isn't punishment. It's a process. It is God adjusting your vibration, aligning your thoughts, and preparing your heart so that what comes does not destroy you, but sustains you. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Here the psalm concludes with the promise of constancy. It's not an isolated miracle, but a lifetime surrounded by goodness. And this is only possible because throughout the psalm, you have learned to live in alignment, to meditate on the truth, to trust even in the shadows, and to walk through the valley without losing faith. This is the hidden code. It is not about reciting, but about becoming what you declare. Now I ask you, what if you started using this psalm not just as a prayer before bed, but as a daily realignment script? What if every morning you declared these words, feeling them, visualizing your life already in this state of provision, rest, guidance, and victory? The biblical law of attraction is not about asking and waiting idly. It is about declaring and walking towards what is already yours. This psalm is the compass, but you are the one who chooses the path. As you absorb all of this, remember, the most powerful revelation is yet to come, because it lies not just in the text, but in what it awakens within you. The true secret of Psalm 23 is that it is an invitation for you to change from the inside out, because nothing changes on the outside if it doesn't first change on the inside. This is the moment you stop repeating words and start activating promises. This is where the law of attraction meets the law of faith. And when these two converge, nothing can stop you. If you feel that this message is touching something within you, remember the special gift I left in the first pinned comment. That's where you'll find the practice that turns theory into reality, the tool that helps your mind stay in this state of creative faith, even when the world seems to be against you. Because the key isn't just to know, it's to hold on to what you know until you see it. And shortly, in the conclusion, you will understand why the final secret of this psalm connects everything we've discussed so far. It's not just about material abundance, nor just about emotional comfort. It's about living the life of someone who has finally understood that the promise is not in the future. It is present. And when you adopt this posture, the things that once seemed distant begin to seek you out. Having come this far, you might sense that something has shifted within you, not just because you listened to a video about a familiar psalm, but because it has now taken on a new dimension. Psalm 23 has evolved from a simple prayer of comfort into a manual for manifestation, a living code that invites you to shift from a mode of waiting to a mode of conscious creation. When David wrote, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," he wasn't trying to convince God of anything. He was declaring an inner state of certainty, a state that magnetizes all that is good, abundant, and necessary. And this is what the law of attraction, when viewed through the lens of the Word, has always tried to teach us. You do not attract what you desperately ask for. You attract what you feel has already been accomplished. Notice how each verse of this psalm connects with essential aspects of manifestation: trust in provision, rest amidst chaos, healing of the soul, courage in the face of the valley, the preparation of a table before enemies, the overflow that comes after the journey, and finally, the constancy of a life dwelling in the divine presence. All of this is not a sequence of distant promises, but a process that can begin right now, inside of you. And here is the final revelation, the one that ties everything you've heard together. The greatest secret of Psalm 23 is that it is not a request for God to do something, but an activation for you to live in the consciousness that it already is. This changes everything, because as long as you believe that manifestation depends on something external moving first, you will continue to pray, declare, and repeat, but you will carry within you the vibration of waiting, of lack, of not yet. But when you assume the posture of someone who already has a shepherd, who provides, guides, protects, and prepares, you change your frequency. And it is this change that brings the invisible into the visible. This is how the green pastures cease to be a metaphor and become the opportunity that appears, the door that opens, the idea that emerges, the right person who crosses your path. Because you are no longer chasing, you are aligned. Now you might ask, what do I do from here? How do I keep this flame alive? The answer lies precisely in what this psalm teaches us: conscious repetition, daily meditation, the choice to trust even when there are no visible signs. Don't expect your life to change just because you understood something new. Understanding is the seed. Practice is the water that makes it sprout. That is why I left that gift in the first pinned comment. Because without action, even the most powerful revelation becomes just another video you watched. Be honest with yourself. How long have you been living waiting for something to change from the outside in? How long have you believed that prosperity was a matter of luck, destiny, or divine favoritism? Today you've discovered that the key has been in your hands all along. And from now on, every time you recite Psalm 23, do it not as an anxious plea, but as a declaration of alignment. See yourself in the green pastures. Feel the quiet waters. Walk through the valley without fear, because the valley does not define the destination. It only prepares the way for the table that is already set. Your mind will try to convince you that it's difficult, that it takes time, that maybe it works for others but not for you. And that is precisely when the code activates. Not in the moment of ease, but in the moment you choose to believe. When you persist in trust, even without proof, you send a spiritual message that heaven answers. And then, the things that once seemed impossible begin to happen in ways you can't even imagine. This isn't magic. It's a principle. If this content has touched you, if it has brought you clarity, if it has rekindled a hope that was fading, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. Not because it's just another request for engagement, but because it is through this gesture that this message continues to reach more people who, just like you, were waiting for a sign. And every time you share, you also sow. And whoever sows in faith reaps in abundance. Remember, Psalm 23 does not change your life on its own. It changes when you change the way you look at it. It ceases to be a collection of words and becomes a code of manifestation when you live it, when you become the person it describes. And that decision is one only you can make. Not tomorrow, not later, but right now. You have heard this psalm many times. Today, you heard it as an invitation. Now the question is, what will you do with this key?